Good morning everyone, the PSO2 servers have just gone down for maintenance, so now we play the waiting game. We're literally waiting for the servers to come back up and New Genesis is going to be released the moment the servers go live. So now in today's video, I'm going to be answering as many questions as I can because I know a lot of you guys have questions regarding New Genesis, so I'm just going to make a frequently asked questions sort of video here. Now if you're new to the channel, I upload PSO2 NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I'd really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. So recently, Sega just posted out the results for the New Genesis closed beta test, which we had in the middle of last month. Now, before I go over all of this information and all of the results, there are several questions I want to get out of the way. First of all is, can I download New Genesis by itself and not download base PSO2? The answer is yes. However, we don't know how it's going to be done yet. There has been no official post, no official confirmation. But the reason why I know yes is because when we downloaded the closed beta, we were able to just download New Genesis. It was the exact same thing with the Japanese beta back in March. We were able to just download New Genesis, not download base PSO2, and the file size was around 30 to 50 gigabytes. Alright, so if you're worried about not having 100 gigabytes on your hard drive or your SSD, and you're like, oh my goodness, how am I going to download and install and fit this gigantic game onto my computer? Don't worry, there will be a method to just download New Genesis. But as I said before, how is the method performed? We don't know yet. Alright, so that answers question number 1. Question number 2 is, can I pre-download New Genesis now? So the only thing that I know is on Steam, it will automatically update. So if you do have base PSO2 installed on your computer already, there will be a gigantic update of 30 gigs or something where it will automatically download and install New Genesis onto your computer. When does this patch kick in? We don't know, but that's going to happen, and our launcher is also going to be renewed. So you know, the current launcher that we have with base PSO2, that's going to change. We're going to get a New Genesis launcher. It's going to look really pretty. So that's pretty much everything that I know about New Genesis with the whole new updates, with the clients, with the preload and all that stuff. Regarding consoles, I know there's a lot of Xbox owners out there asking if they can pre-download the game, so forth and so on. Honestly, I don't know. This has to go through the whole Microsoft Store system, and I don't know what Microsoft is going to do with their side of things. The same thing with the Epic Store. I don't know how they're going to be doing things on their side. The only thing that I know about is the Steam Store, and I know this because when there were previous updates, it automatically updated for me regardless of how big the patch was. Okay, so with that out of the way, let us look at the NGS closed beta results because it is very, very surprising. So we can see over here the closed beta test information. Class levels, only 5% of the player base got to level 15. 29% were level 10 or higher, and 66% was lower than level 10. So I sort of understand where these statistics come from, but it still is a little bit surprising because I always had the mentality or the thought that global players were a little bit more hardcore than Japanese players, especially when it came to short bursts of high intensity gameplay. But the statistics over here prove me wrong. We have a lot of casual players, you know? There's 66% of the people didn't even get above level 10, which meant you basically did the story, you didn't really do any grinding, you probably wandered around, took screenshots, or maybe because it was a closed beta, you were like, it's not really worth my time to invest my time into any of these things because I'm not able to keep any of the progress that I make. And so a lot of players just did the tutorial stuff and didn't bother doing any grinding because grinding might be a little bit boring for a lot of people. And so this directly affects the battle power, the average battle power. There was 12% which got to 1050, which was actually the campaign. If you got over 1050, you get a bunch of goodies. So I can see actually a lot of people didn't even bother for the campaign. Only 12% of the player base actually got to 1050 battle power. There was 22% that was 950 and higher, and there was 66% which was 950 and below. And this directly correlates with the class level. Obviously, the higher level you are, the higher battle power you get. So since 66% were lower than level 10, and thus 66% have less than 950 battle power. But at the class ratio, this is what surprised me. It's actually a pretty even breakdown across all the different classes. Obviously, Tekker only does have 10%. If you guys haven't seen what each class does and the weapon choices they have, please check out yesterday's video. I break it down. I show every class, I show every weapon, and so you can see what class fits your playstyle the best. But as we can see here, everything is pretty even. You know, Hunter and Gunner still the most popular with 23% and 21%, but Fighter, Ranger, Force, Tekker, you know, they're not that far behind actually, which is actually really nice compared to the JP servers where Hunter won by a landslide. Like, a lot of players played Hunter compared to all the other classes, while on the global servers, it was slightly more balanced, so I like that. So now to talk about a more sensitive topic, and that is the frequency rate of appearance rate of gathering minerals. So this is minerals, ores, materials, which are basically used in order to break through as well as enhance your weapons as well as your units, so forth and so on. So a lot of people, myself included, were not very happy of how often these materials spawned, because clearly on the global servers, they only spawned once every 24 hours or at reset time, compared to when we played back in March on the Japanese closed beta, where it respawned every 3 hours, and you can switch blocks to collect even more materials as it resets it. However, on the global server, even if you switch blocks, it didn't work. The minerals spawned every reset, and that was it. And so this was kind of annoying and kind of restrictive, especially for the players who just wanted to play a lot of New Genesis. And I understand both points of views, so let's talk about the player basis point of view first. So as a player, I want to play this game as much as I can, and I don't want the game to limit my progress through time gates, because this is not a gacha game. So a lot of people have been comparing this with Genshin Impact. As you guys know, I play a lot of Genshin Impact. I like the game, and I like PSO2 as well, and I love New Genesis. However, there is fundamentally two separate business models between these two games. Genshin Impact is a gacha game. Gacha games, by default, have time gates. The reason for that is because they want to incentivize the player base to use money in order to speed up their process. However, New Genesis is not a gacha game, and I do not want New Genesis to become a gacha game because it's not built around that type of business model. New Genesis is an online MMORPG. It is a power fantasy game. It's where you play the game as much as you want to get stronger, you want to continuously get stronger, and that is the whole drive and the whole feedback loop of the game. You play, you get stronger. The more hours you put into the game, the stronger your character gets. And that is basically the cycle of this game. So by time gating the ability for me to collect these materials is a little bit concerning. However, if I want to be more optimistic, I do need to remember that, hey, they did say there is 4 separate zones. So in the global closed beta, we were limited to 1 zone. However, with the full release, we will get 4 additional zones. So hopefully, with the addition of those 4 zones, we'll just have so many materials to gather that it's not humanly possible to collect all of the materials before reset time. I highly doubt that, but that is the optimistic side, the wishful thinking side of myself. However, we also need to see Sega's point of view. Why would Sega limit the ability for players to progress? Players want to play the game. Sega wants more players to play the game. It's in their best interest. If they have a bazillion players playing the game at any given time, that looks good for their investors. When their investors are happy, they'll be more willing to invest even more money into the company so that they can make bigger and better projects. So why would Sega hurt themselves by implementing this time gate? The number one reason is because they understand their player base. So again, when we scroll up over here and we see the class level, we can say that the people who are going to be playing really hardcore and going really ham on the game is going to be the 5% right here. So that is not exactly their target market, because the top 5% of these super hardcore players, they don't represent the majority of the player base. So who does represent the majority of the player base? It's going to be the 66% over here that didn't even get to level 10 or above. So since the majority of the player base are casual players, they probably will never even hit the cap for these minerals. They probably won't even gather 50% or more of these materials every single day, compared to the hardcore players, which are going to wipe out the entire map every single day in order to try to min-max their progress. So I feel like this might be a way to limit the hardcore players progress so that the casual players can keep up with the power creep. So as we know from base PSO2, there is clearly power creep as the game gets older, as the game advances. So I don't think New Genesis is going to go off the path and suddenly remove power creep. I feel like New Genesis is going to follow the same model as base PSO2, and so monsters are going to gradually get stronger and stronger, and they don't want the top 5% of the hardcore elite players to just smash through everything and complain that there's absolutely nothing to do in the game because everything is way too easy. However, if they buff all the monsters to fit the endgame players and the hardcore players, then the casual players won't be able to keep up and they won't be able to do any of that content, and thus it alienates the community. And so this could be a reason why they're limiting people with a time gate over here so that it's easier to control power creep, so that they can make content suitable for the entire community instead of segmenting the community with hardcore players and casual players. This is very, very tricky to do, but it could be one of the reasons they're doing this. Of course, if you guys have any other theories, please let me know in the comment section below because I'd love to hear them. Now, they cover a whole bunch of other stuff in this survey, but none of it really interests me. I will have the link in the description below if you want to read it for yourself. Now, there is one more thing that they are changing in New Genesis, and it is the boosts. So as we know, in base PSO2, you can get drop rate boost, EXP boost, Meseta boost, so forth and so on. And in New Genesis, it is no different. However, the boost will not act the same as in base PSO2. In base PSO2, the timer only ticked down while you were logged into the game and while you were actively on a mission. So for example, let's say that I popped a rare drop rate plus 25%. When I was out in the open field killing things in an expedition, this 60 minutes will start counting down. However, the moment I returned onto the ship, the counter would pause. And when I relogged in the next day and began an expedition, then the countdown would continue to decrease. So it was really, really nice because basically when I popped a rare drop rate 25%, I could essentially use it for several days. If I was pacing myself and only playing like 20 minutes a day, I would be able to use this for 3 days. However, in New Genesis, things are different. Keep in mind, this does not affect base PSO2. Please note that the effect duration will also reduce during logout and maintenance. So it's really, really important to understand that these boosts over here, the moment you pop it, you have 60 minutes, regardless whether you're logged out, whether the servers go down, whether you're AFKing, it don't matter. It's going to count down. And the same thing with the 24 hours one. So basically, the TLDR is if you are planning to pop one of these 24 hours one, you better make sure you have a ton of time to play and that there isn't a server maintenance happening anytime soon. Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on New Genesis. Bye!
What can I say except you're welcome for the